So I've been shopping at Goodwill for a long time, probably going on 6 years at this point. I've been shopping at Goodwill for a while, just looking for things to buy. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but and I've been to a lot of Goodwills too. It's not always the same one or whatever. So I went to Goodwill the other day, and I was just looking for CDs and maybe some tech stuff that is interesting, catches my eye. And if you know me, I'm into weird and kind of, weird things. So let me show you what I found. Whoop-de-doo, a Sylvania portable DVD player. This is, why would you even buy this? There's no value in this whatsoever. It's just a portable DVD player. It accepts DVDs and CDs. However, once you start to look at this, it starts to get a little strange. It has a camera, which is super weird for a DVD player. Why would a DVD player need a camera? The side isn't too weird. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a USB port, which is a little strange for a DVD player. Those usually have barrel plugs. And then it only has 3 buttons: power on, and then plus or minus volume. So yeah, this might be a touchscreen DVD player, and that it is a touchscreen DVD player. But it, like I said, has a trick up its sleeve. It is also a full Android tablet. Let's get into this, shall we? So I turned my ring light on so you can actually see this thing. So I bought this at Goodwill for $2. Now, the interesting thing about Goodwill now is, as everyone knows, Goodwill is not a good company. They do not treat their employees well, and their CEOs and executives make millions of dollars a year while profiting off of the labor of the more unfortunate of society. So normally what happens when a tablet or something of value comes into the store is it immediately gets listed on the Shop Goodwill app and the Shop Goodwill website. So what this is this is kind of a Goodwill proprietary eBay, and there's just items on here, and they do throw in some stuff that is so it doesn't make it scummy, but the bulk of shopgoodwill.com is electronics and other things that you used to be able to find at Goodwill. So if we just type in tablet, you will find a plethora of just cheap garbage, 8-inch tablets. We've got the Verizon Ellipsis 8, another Ellipsis, really old Galaxy Tab, a graphics tablet, I believe that's a drawing tablet, another Ellipsis, an RCA Voyager, a Tab S3, or Tab 3, sorry, Android 4, I think. It just a lot of other really old and just kind of garbage tablets, a Jazz Ultra Tab, another Amazon Kindle tablet, RCA Voyager. So they mostly just list anything of value on the Shop Goodwill and then mark it up for auction. This thing didn't get put on there because I think the people at my local Goodwill saw this, didn't even attempt to turn it on or plug it in, didn't even read the back label, saw it had a DVD drive on it, and said, yep, it's a portable DVD player, $2, throw it on the shelf. Because normally this wouldn't have any value to it. However, if you flip it over, and on this label right here, I'm not sure if you can see it, it says Sylvania SLT DVD 1024. Right below that, 10.1-inch quad core. That threw me off. And then it says tablet P DVD combo. So if we turn this on, which for what this is, it's surprisingly snappy. If I can put in my pin. Go to settings. We go to about tablet. We'll see the device name is SLT DVD 1024. And it runs Android 10. Now, if the keen-eyed among you who knows Android, you can tell this is Android Go. This is a specific lightweight operating system for usually really awful devices. And that's what this is a pretty potato device. If we go to CPU Z, which I have installed right here, if when it loads, you can see that it has a MediaTek processor, which are known for their outstanding performance. Specifically a MediaTek MT8167. It is a quad core, and it's based off the ARM Cortex A35 design. So it's really low powered. It boosts up to 1.3 gigahertz, but it can downclock all the way to 600, and currently they sit at about 750. And then the GPU is actually a PowerVR Rogue GE8300. I believe PowerVR is what's usually paired with MediaTek processors instead of a Mali, which can be found more on Snapdragon SoCs. We go to device right here. You'll notice it reports itself as a 7.2 inch display, or 7.42. So what I think is happening is this display is 10.2 inches, but the system is reporting it as 7.4 because when you watch DVDs, and we will get into that in a little bit, when you watch DVDs, the image appears to be stretched over to 10 to fill the screen, but it looks like it'd be more comfortable on a 7-inch device. Internal storage, this is a 16 gigabyte device, so it's actually not terrible. Most of it is taken up by Android, but we still have about 12 gigabytes available to use, and about 65% of that is used right now with like 3 apps that I've put on here. Go to system, and you can tell the raw performance of this tablet just shining right here. I will say, due to its lack of power, it has decent battery life. You can tell it's been well loved and used by someone who has taken a knife to the display. I guess we're not gonna be able to see system or anything now. It does have 1 gigabyte of internal memory. So I ran a Geekbench run earlier, right after a fresh reinstall, or it could be kind of a reinstall of Android. Took it down to factory settings, and I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark. I know Geekbench 6 is out, but that will definitely not run on here. And the results, I will say, are not surprising, but are still surprising because of how absolute dog water it is. So it only runs on the CPU, will not do a GPU compute test. And if we go to history, we can find a score of 62 on the single core and 121 on multi-core rendering, or multi-core score. So just to put that into perspective, this is a Samsung Galaxy A11. This is the second lowest tier phone that you can buy from Samsung, and this is, mind you, 2 years old already. And its Geekbench score was 128 single core. So this thing on the single core performed better than 4 cores on the tablet. And it got a 493 on multi-core, almost or a little over 4 times as fast as this thing. And this is a budget phone that I bought for $25, brand new. So if that shows you how dog water this tablet is, I don't know what will. So what I have planned for you guys is I have installed 3D Mark, and I went in and installed the only benchmark that will run on this device. And I'm going to play it in real time. I might speed it up just a bit because it might be actually just that slow and painful to watch. But I installed one of the benchmarks, the only one that'll run. And yeah, let's see how well this performs. All right, so I believe it was the Slingshot was the only one that was able to run, because all the other ones, Wildlife Extreme, the Extreme Stress Test, Wildlife, and Wildlife Stress Test, all require a minimum of 3 gigabytes of RAM. And this is the only one that will work. So let's press play. Now I know it might hang in the beginning just because it's loading everything. So well, I'll bring it back when it actually gets into the benchmark. Wow. Oh my goodness. It's doing something. It's rendering. It's a PowerPoint, but it is definitely rendering a 3D environment. Now, looking at this, you can definitely tell how emulation might go on this thing. I tried N64 and it was not playable at all. It was definitely running in the teens for FPS wise, and the latency was awful. Anything more than SNES will really work this thing hard, and some SNES games like F-Zero would just not be playable whatsoever. So emulation wise, this thing is not great, to be sure. So I'm gonna let this finish out. We'll see what the end score is. So obviously you can tell it's not gonna be great, but I'll meet you back when we get that score. All right, so we have our results. They are in. We have our, yeah, it ran. So it got an overall score of 258, which is absolutely awful. So this right here is the Apple, the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is its average scores. It is so far down here that it doesn't even register. This is the tablet, and this is the iPhone. If we go to like the Redmi or the Realme, sorry, it's all up here. The Xiaomi here, and the OnePlus obviously is all way up in like the 10,000. So absolutely insane. This thing is a potato, but it did run. So I'm in the bottom 9% of all devices, which is awesome. The temperature apparently was only at 24 degrees Celsius, which is like just 2 degrees higher than ambient down here in my basement. And it only took 2% of the battery, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, this thing is an absolute turd, and this might even have been software rendering, but you know, it's whatever. So now let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of why this thing actually exists. It is a DVD player after all, so let's see it play some DVDs. So first of all, I do want to get off started with a CD playback. So it will play CDs. And I really love this splash screen. This is actually a super cool background, and this is what stays for audio CDs. And it's just super cool looking. And yeah, it just plays CDs. It's about all it does. I don't believe this will get copyright struck. But so this has some weirdness over here with the volume slider. You can see it's got some glitching. I'm not sure what's up with that, but it only happens when you're playing an audio CD. And, you know, I don't want to get any more if that is copyrighted. But yeah, you can tell it does stuff. It doesn't have any track ID, has nothing. It does detect all the gaps in the CD, so it will tell you the length of the tracks, but other than that, there's nothing else. It won't do anything besides just play a CD. It doesn't sound great. The headphone jack on the side sounds really awful. The amp and DAC in there is terrible. It sounds quite dreadful, to put it plainly. It just sounds really muffled and just terrible. Now, one really cool thing that this thing can do, since it is an Android tablet and this DVD player runs within Android, is if you take a pair of Bluetooth headphones, so let's see if we can connect these up here. It does. Okay, so pair a new device, and there went my light. Thank you. So pair new device, available devices. Right here has 2 wireless. So get these connected up. and go back into the DVD player, which is an app just on the home screen. I figured that this would have had two separate modes. Basically, there's a tablet and a DVD player in here, and this is acting as a display for both. And there's just a switching, so you can use the DVD playing hardware or use the tablet hardware, and just kind of switch between those. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is really loud. There is no sound dampening or anything going on. It's just a disc spinning at 200 RPM. But put this up to the microphone. Not sure if you can hear it, but it is playing through the headphones, and it does sound better than the headphone out, but I would not listen to this whatsoever. But it does sound remarkably better than the actual headphone jack itself. So that's enough of that. Let's see this thing in its actual natural environment and be used what it's supposed to be used as a DVD player. So I'm going to try two types of DVDs. I'm going to try a TV show. We have disc 1 of Breaking Bad here. Now, I noticed that this tablet has another strange little quirk. So normally a DVD player has some sort of ASIC inside. It's just a chip that's supposed to decode DVDs, and that's about it. Maybe run the little Java environment that the DVD menu plays in. But that's about it. That's all it's supposed to do, and they're really good at that. That's what they're supposed to do, is decode DVDs. And you can tell that this uses the tablet's CPU to decode DVDs, because this thing drops frames like no tomorrow. Now, obviously, there's no audio to this, but it's just Breaking Bad. It's nothing special. I think this is about as bright as the screen gets. You have your title. That doesn't do anything. Press menu. It'll take you to the DVD menu. And then you can't actually tap options. You have to use the arrow buttons. So I'll go episode selection. Gotta tap that again and just do the 3rd episode of season 1. Just play the regular episode. And this thing is so loud. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that well, but it's a very loud device. And yeah, so there you go. It's doing the thing. So we'll just go back to menu and exit so I can swap the disc. This thing does not have any sort of disc breaking device on the motor. So if I open this right now, that disc is still spinning. So, all right, and lastly, let's try a actual movie. So I decided we'll just go with Thomas the Magic Railroad. And for this one, I'll make sure the screen is at its full brightness. And we'll just turn off the Bluetooth and listen to these wonderful speakers. We will play a YouTube video on here in a bit, because this will do YouTube. And we'll also check out that camera too. There's that wonderful sound again. Well, I guess we have that glitching in the DVD menu as well. So as promised, it plays DVDs. It does have that cool kind of last memory feature, which is pretty cool, but I don't know. It's just, we'll go to I think special features. We'll not actually watch the movie just in case it is copyrighted and finds music in there, but we will do the Thomas the Magic Railroad theatrical trailer.
He fired the imagination of millions around the world. Now, he's headed for the big screen in his very first movie.
These speakers are
Thomas, the Tank
quite
Engine. Who else were you expecting?
quite terrible. They leave a lot to be desired.
Passport to
I
Thomas
thought
and the
that since
Magic
there would be
Railroad.
actual like cone drivers in this, that they would be not as terrible.
Mr. Say, it is
But,
a very important
yeah,
day.
you can
But
just listen to
something
it
has gone
and
wrong.
tell.
Junior, you've got to come here right away.
The sparkle has left the land,
I've run out of gold dust, and because of that, I'm losing my energy as well. Just hold on, cuz.
and it will take a hero with nerves of steel.
Don't worry, I'm on my way.
But yeah, it does, everything it's supposed to. It even has a nice little stop splash screen for the movie. So yeah, that's the DVD playback, and it will do that over the speakers, headphone jack, or Bluetooth, which I think the Bluetooth is actually a very nice feature because the speakers and the headphone jack are so awful. So let's do YouTube now, because this is an Android tablet, and this is what a lot of people do on these. I wasn't able to get TikTok installed for some reason on here. I'm not sure why, but let's just watch a RNC music video. And this thing will only do
Obviously, first a
For-
little bit of a fine.
480p. It does not do 1080p or 720p. So I go to advanced. Oh, no.
Some ones that I'd be interested in. Before I do that, though, I should show you guys the rest of the vinyl. There's this one.
So yeah, it does do 1080p. Hold on.
Right down here, we do have an assortment.
I've been using this for about 6 hours since I bought it, and it refused to do anything higher than 480p. But here it is. It's doing 1080p. Not a whole lot of drop frames. It looks pretty good, actually.
Apparently, they're on volume 83 now.
But yeah, it's doing it. This display is absolutely terrible. The colors are extremely washed out, and
So here's my little stack. I got the
just
full soundtrack.
awful. The speakers are a lot better for this kind of content, just kind of speaking.
Beatles one.
But it's just, yeah, it's not a great experience. However, what is really nice is this whole time it has been stood up on its own little kickstand, which is quite convenient. So from the front, this kind of does look like a really cheap, like Amazon Echo, like the Echo Show or whatever. And that's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, it does YouTube playback very well. It does Spotify playback really well too. So yeah, it's what it does. So finally, before we get into the last kind of thoughts and whatever talking about it, let's demonstrate the camera on this thing. I will upload the video within this video to show you, but I just want to pull up the camera app real quick and show you just what it looks like from here. Yeah, it is a super low resolution, low frame rate deal we got going on. So I'm gonna record a little something, and then let's get into some final thoughts and discuss this thing. So unfortunately, this is the oddly bottom-mounted camera on the Sylvania CD DVD tablet combo thingy that I bought, and I don't even know what this sounds like. I'm seeing what the camera looks like, but I have not heard the microphone yet, or if it works. It could be plugged with food, snacks, and boogers from the previous child that owned this. When I originally bought this tablet, it came without a factory reset. It had some personal emails on here. It had no photos, surprisingly, but it had a Baby Shark game, a Barbie dress-up game, and I think some other little kid game that obviously was owned by a little kid. Unfortunately, no DVDs were left in the player, or if they were, they would have been taken out by the Goodwill staff. So, yeah, let's wrap this up and get into some final thoughts. Okay, so final thoughts. What do I think of this thing? It's just so stupid and goofy, and I didn't know that these existed at all. Just a super strange combo. It makes sense that it exists, but with the manufacture date of 2020, an Android 10, like this is super recent. I'm just not sure who the audience is for this, because nowadays tablets are very affordable, streaming services are affordable-ish, and YouTube has a plethora of original content that is movie quality, if not better. I just don't understand why this exists, but I'm glad it does, because it's really, 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 really funny, and I enjoy messing around with it. It's just so strange, and I love it for that. It did cost me only $2 at Goodwill, so I'm very fortunate to have found it before somebody else was able to get their hands on it. And yeah, I'm really happy that I'm able to add this to my collection of odd tablets. I've got so many tablets that we can look at here on the channel. I've got an old Nook HD with a reskin version of Android 4.3, I want to say. It's a custom version of Android for Barnes & Noble. I have a first generation Kindle Fire, which the touch digitizer has stopped working, so that's kind of useless. I have a Nextbook, which those are super interesting because they contain an x86 Intel Atom processor inside of them. So theoretically it could run Linux, and we might do a video on that to try and see if we can run desktop Linux on a tablet. And I've just got, some other interesting tablets and things. So I'm really glad that I'm able to add this thing to the collection. And I was also really glad to be able to show this off to you guys today. And all that. So this has been RNC Games, the kind of tech side of RNC Music, and I'll see you in the next one.